Aventurine is going to be releasing during the second half of version 2.1, and with the recent live stream, we did finally get some official info about his kit. So today, we're going to go over everything they mentioned about his kit so far, and I'm also going to go into how good I think he's going to be based on that info, and also some possible team synergies. Because I do think that he is going to end up being a very consistent sustainer, and could be pretty big game changer for a few different comps for sure. So starting out here with his kit, he has a, as I said, a very consistent kit, which is really going to be helpful as a sustained character. So starting out with his skill, which is really just the crux of his whole playstyle, is that he will apply a stackable shield to the entire team, which I think is very good for a preservation character. Because the big issue I have when it comes to March 7th specifically as a preservation, since we don't really have too many preservations in the game, is that her shield only goes to one ally at a time, which is why I do like Japard in the fact that he shields the entire team. Aventurine is going to shield the entire team, and then Fouchouan's Matrix works for the entire team. So that is very helpful for sure. Then when we get to his talent, I think this is a very kind of unique thing for a preservation character, but it is really interesting to me as well. So his talent will give him a stack of Blind Bet whenever an ally is attacked while they have the shield from his skill. And once Aventurine has 7 stacks of Blind Bet, then all the stacks are going to be consumed, and he'll be able to use an AoE follow-up attack that when that attack goes through, it will reapply the stackable shield from his skill, which is really good because you are going to be able to keep that shield up very consistently, since because if this talent was only activating whenever he got hit, it would be a lot less consistent. But if it's as long as anyone gets hit, and I mean as long as you have the Aventurine built up pretty consistently, because typically preservation shields like Japard, for example, because that's what I'm going to compare this to, should stack off of defense, or should scale with defense. I'm not sure if it will be the same thing because we don't have his multipliers or anything like that. But if it does scale off defense, I do think that this will be very consistent. You'll have pretty much permanent uptime on this shield. Then something else as well about the blind bet stacks is that it did show in the gameplay that they had in the stream, you are able to overcap the blind bet stacks. It showed, I believe it was 9 out of 7, which is pretty good. So if you get hit with like a blast or AoE attack when you're at like 6 out of 7 stacks, you shouldn't lose the value from those 2 stacks. So that is a very nice thing overall to just give him a bit more consistency. Then with his ultimate, it is going to give him a random amount of blind bet stacks. It will also deal damage to a singular enemy, and then that enemy will get hit with a debuff that will increase the amount of crit damage that they take for a set number of turns. And this is really good for him, and just overall his utility, because not only is he going to get the stacks of blind bet, which could bring him to a follow-up attack as well, but he also is increasing the crit damage that enemy takes, which is going to benefit a lot of characters, which I'll get into in a moment when I talk about the synergies. Then, lastly for his kit, his technique will give him 1 of 3 random defense boosts for the entire team. So, it's really good that's for the entire team, so it can increase their survivability. And it is also, kind of funny that they're doing a little like random thing, but they did say in the live stream that that's kind of how they want him to be at first, but they had to tone it down for him to, be designed properly for them. But overall, very solid kit, I think, which moves me into my thoughts and possible synergies for him. I do think that he looks very good, and he could definitely be a game changer with the utility he has, as well as the very consistent sustain as well. Because considering that blind bet is able to lead to the shield being reapplied, you pretty much shouldn't have any uptime issues, as long as you're not taking so much damage per attack that the allies are starting to lose the shield before it's reapplied, which I think could definitely be possible with building him, especially if it scales off of defense. You just go full defense for a lot of his kit, and I think that'll work out really well for him. Now when it comes to team comps, I do think that he has some very obvious synergy when it comes to follow-up comps. And I think he is gonna be the best in slot sustain for those comps, just because of his follow-up attack, and also since those comps are centered around Topaz, and Topaz is able to boost the follow-up damage of the team. She is able to make Aventurine do even more damage with his follow-up attack from Blind Bet. Plus, with it being AoE is very good, especially when some of the best follow-up attackers in the game for that comp. I mean, outside of Jing Yuan, and I mean, you could count Xing Shui, but I wouldn't really count her as a follow-up attack comp kind of character. They do have single target follow-up attacks, mainly being Topaz and Ratio. So, because of that, he is going to be able to apply some AoE damage, which can be very good, especially if there's just adds over on the field to deal with them. And yeah, even though he's going to be able to help out follow-up teams a bunch with that, I do think just any team at all will be able to take advantage of his kit and just be generally I get a lot of value from him outside of dot teams. I think dot teams are the only teams that kind of don't really see as much of a benefit from using him. Outside of the sustain, of course, because the sustain is very good. But that's because the debuff he applies with his ultimate is only boosting the crit damage that the enemy takes. And since dots don't crit, there's not as much value from using that when compared to, let's say, Huohuo, for example, which I think is the best sustain for dot comps, since she does give the attack and energy for them. But yeah, other than dot, I do think that Aventurine is going to be very good for pretty much every other comp, because every other DPS besides dot, they are trying to get crits to maximize their damage, so increasing that crit damage even more is going to be really good for them. And then pairing that with other supports that have like damage bonuses, like Ruan Mei's all types res penetration, you're going to be able to get some very solid damage in with this as well. So I really do like that he has that buff component for the crit damage. So overall, though, I think that if you are lacking a sustain on your account, or a really good sustain on your account, I think Aventurine is going to be an amazing character to pull on. And I think that's especially because of how easy it is, or at least it seems to be, to keep his shield up at all times and just keep your team protected. Now, I know some people are going to ask, but wait, what about Locha? Because Locha's rerunning in the first half of 2.1 and Aventurine is in the second half, and they're both imaginary sustainers. I didn't want to talk too much about Locha in this video because I do want to plan another video a bit closer to Aventurine's release to compare the two of them, because I do want to go a little bit more in depth as to what Locha can provide, because he still is an amazing sustain character, but I do think that there are some differences worth noting between the two of them, and I think in certain situations players might benefit from pulling for Locha as opposed to Aventurine, but I do think there's also situations where Aventurine will be way more beneficial than pulling for Locha. So if you are interested in that as well, or if you just enjoyed the video today, definitely be sure to hit that sub button, leave a like as well. But with that, everyone, I'm going to end it off here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.